Good morning. How the devil is everyone doing this fine day? Me? Well, I'm feeling rough again, to be perfectly honest. I think the combination of the two shows on Wednesday, the long drive to Staffordshire on Wednesday, the early start on Thursday, and the long drive home last night have all caught up with me, sadly. All that aside, I need to say a very good morning to some new viewers. Following an upgrade to our broadcasting platform, we are now broadcasting live and in person to both YouTube and Twitter for the first time. That's an additional 22,000 potential sets of eyeballs that we have not reached before. And if you're watching on either of those platforms, welcome to the Breakfast Show community. Please let us know who you are and where you're watching from. In addition to that, we're also now broadcasting in full 1080p high resolution. I don't know if you can tell the difference. You probably can't if you're watching on a mobile device, but I should look absolutely awesome now. Just wish I felt it. Just one final thing before we get started. I just wanted to say a very, very quick thank you to all of those that tuned in to the Caterpillar World Premiere show on Wednesday night. I didn't get a chance to say thank you properly then, but I'm doing it now. And if you were among the lucky winners of a book or a model, I'll be boxing and bagging those up for dispatch later today. Now, without further ado, let's roll the intro and get this show on the road. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I'm your host, Mark Anthony. It is Friday, it's the 2nd of December, as that remarkably persistent and very, very poorly person just said. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony. In today's show, construction suicides continue to rise. JCB has showed off its first hydrogen-fueled telehandler just yesterday, and we've got some exclusive footage of that in action. Komatsu is also showing off its first all-electric wheel loader, and Case provides more details of its E-Series excavators. Plus, we're heading back to Bauma in the company of the fine folks at Kobelco, and we'll get to all of that in just a second. But first, let's see who among the rich and the shameless will be celebrating a birthday on this day of days. Happy birthday! And it's many happy returns to soprano Maria Callas, to former Secretary of State Alexander Haig. Happy birthday also to designer Gianni Versace. Got one of his ties here somewhere. To Def Leppard bassist Rick Savage, and to Foo Fighters bassist Nate Mandel, actress Lucy Liu, and to tennis star and on-court stabbing victim Monica Seles, and also to pop stars Nelly Furtado and the gorgeous Britney Spears. Many happy returns to them, one and all. There are many things to be proud of within the demolition and construction industry. This, sadly, isn't one of them. The Office for National Statistics has just released the latest suicide statistics for England and Wales. And the number of suicides attributed to construction occupations in 2021 was 507. 503 of those were men. This figure constitutes a rise of 24 from the previous year and 25 more than the previous 5-year average, and equates to a 34 per 100,000 in employment. That is the highest rate since analysis of this data began. The research identified that the number of suicides in construction rose from 26 to 34 per 100,000 in the 7 years to 2021. It is often quoted that suicides within construction are 3 times that of the national average. Unfortunately, that figure means that we are now nearer to 4 times the national average. 4 times the national average. Professor Billy Hare of Glasgow Caledonian University said, whilst it is unwise to react to a single year's figures, the long-term rate of suicides is regrettably on an upward trajectory for those working in the construction industry, despite all the good work being done in recent years. This means we need to dig deeper to find and address the true root causes and take collective action sooner rather than later. Bill Hill, a CEO of the Lighthouse Construction Charity, who's been a guest on this show in the past, said over 87% of our construction workforce are male, and over 50% of the sector is made up of self-employed, agency staff, or zero-hour contract workers. Financial insecurity is a major factor for poor well-being in our workforce, and the pandemic added greater anxiety and emotional burden. The industry and charities like ours have made huge strides in recognising and delivering programs to improve well-being, but the results from 2021 simply galvanise our resolve to do more. But our messages of support are not reaching the boots on the ground. We all have a moral responsibility and an economic imperative to work together to improve the well-being and welfare of our workers. Let's have a chat about that after the show. I've got plenty more to say on that, but in the meantime, let me have a look at this.
The Miller GT series heralds a new era of unrivaled power and cutting-edge intelligent coupler technology, increasing job site safety, machine versatility, and productivity. It's the added versatility that you need at the value you can afford. To find out more, visit millergroundbreaking.com.
As most of you will know, I was up with the fine folks at JCB yesterday. It's a journey I have made countless times over a 30-year career in construction journalism, and I always genuinely look forward to visiting JCB's world headquarters. Yesterday's visit was different from the norm, however, very different in fact. Under normal circumstances, JCB pulls back a curtain to display a shiny new item of construction equipment, the culmination of a research, development, design and manufacturing process that may have been months, years or possibly even decades in the making. While the company did show off its hydrogen combustion engine and several machines into which the engine has now been fitted yesterday, JCB was showing us not a finished product, but a work in progress. I'm Mark Anthony, and I'm stood with JCB's first hydrogen-fuelled Lodal telehandler. As you can see, it was a bit foggy in Ashbourne yesterday, but thankfully JCB was remarkably transparent. See what I did there? Remarkably transparent about its road to zero journey, from the initial electrification of some smaller machine models through its testing of hydrogen fuel cell technology in a 20-ton class excavator, right the way through to its current focus on hydrogen combustion technology. Now, we managed to capture yesterday an exclusive interview with JCB's Chief Innovation and Growth Officer, Tim Burnhope. That's going to be coming very, very soon. It really is very, very insightful and really puts the whole road to zero journey into very sharp focus. We'll be bringing that to you next week. Now, I was going to say a very quick good morning to a few people. I spotted one that went through earlier. We have a newcomer, Anak Rantau. I think that's going to be, I'm fairly sure he's watching, or he or she is watching from Indonesia. And we all know what happens when somebody new pops up in the chat. They get some welcome confetti. So thank you very much indeed for being here, Anak. And as you can see from the logo there, he is actually watching over on YouTube, which is good to see. As I said earlier, we are now broadcasting to direct to YouTube as a result of their upgrade. Malcolm Dyke, morning Malcolm, says JCB fueling the road to zero. Jeff Schofield, morning Jeff. Jeff was actually up with JCB and myself and Peter Haddock and a bunch of other reprobates yesterday. So thank you very much for being here, Jeff, and thank you for the kind comments on the footage. I can claim no responsibility for any of it. It's all my son's handiwork, as you could probably tell. Right, on with a bit of this. We featured the Case E-Series excavators on this show back when they were very first released. But now the manufacturer has started to highlight some of the machine's key features, benefits, and attributes.
We've taken intelligent hydraulic control to a whole new level with Case E-Series. The first thing people often talk about when they talk about Case excavators is the smoothness and the responsiveness of the controls. That's entirely in the hydraulics. The all-new E-Series from Case now gives you even more control over how the machine responds and works with you through a new feature we call Hydraulic Flow Control Balance. Through the massive new 10-inch LCD display, Hydraulic Flow Control Balance allows you to customize the priority of hydraulic flow being used for arm-in and boom-up movements when multifunctioning, and for arm-in and swing movements. This makes the excavator even more responsive and efficient based on the type of work and the operator's preference. Contact your local Case dealer to learn more today about the E-Series, or visit us online at casece.com for more information.
Yeah, thanks to the fine folks at Case for allowing us to share that one. Very quick one. If you are one of our regular viewers, so a Mick Norton or I think Gary Muirheady's back with us, Ken Hatcher's here, can you tell the difference? Are you seeing an improvement in the image? I mean, not this, obviously, there's no improving that, but are you seeing a sharper, crisper image? I'd love to hear about it. Now, let me get on with a bit of this.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
We have now revisited Bauma so many times that I'm starting to feel like we never left. If you've been watching this show over the past month or two, you will know that the high-reach excavator on the Kobelco stand was one of the highlights, not just of the Kobelco stand, but of the entire Bauma exhibition. But there was way, way more to the Kobelco stand than just that.
Hi, I'm Stefano. We are here at Bauma 2022. Welcome to the Kobelco stand. This year we have a huge stand with a lot of machines going from mini, midis, heavies, demolition machine and cranes. This year we also have a fan shop with a wide selection of clothing, scale models for fans and enthusiasts of all ages. We had a really great show and we can't wait to welcome you back in Bauma 2025.
Turns out people are actually seeing us in higher definition. I just had this from Peter Ferguson. Picture quality does look higher definition now that you mention it. You also look 9 or 10 days younger. I'm paying extra for this. I was hoping for more than 9 or 10 days. Just going back to Kobelco, they really did put on an incredible display of equipment. Coincidentally, so did the company featured in our final clip of the day. We will be right back after this. Where are we? I'm feeling distracted by trying not to vomit, basically. We're going to play out with yet another film from Bauma. This time the company in the spotlight is Komatsu, or more specifically, the company's first all-electric wheel loader.
We have the first electrically driven wheel loader from Komatsu. Coming in with Lars is the WA Electric. And this is a prototype under test in which the travel drive, the steering, and all the working equipment cylinders are all operated completely electrically. The quick coupler, however, is still actuated hydraulically. This enables us to control the hydraulic attachments and operate them in the same way as with conventional wheel loaders. Now, in the final expansion stage of this concept, what we're planning to do is, I can share that with you now already, is we're planning to use a battery, and this battery will be able to be used all day on a construction site under normal working conditions. Well,
that took me by surprise. I was just enjoying that. I actually saw that machine up close and personal, and it really is every bit as good as it looks. Now we need her again.
Sorry to interrupt the guy with the funny glasses, but if you're enjoying this video, please hit the like button as it helps our channel. Or better still, share this video with a friend or a colleague. Thank you. Right, back to Beardy.
Right, that pretty much wraps up the main part of this morning's show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into the chat to see what you're all saying today. If you can't stick around for that, then please stay safe, look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. Have a great day, have a great weekend, and thanks for watching. But if you do have the time and the inclination, I'll see you probably briefly on the other side of this. Yeah, I'm feeling really sick actually, so I'm going to do this very quickly. When I spoke earlier this week about this new plant sector representation organisation, I rather mangled my metaphors. Had a bit of time to think about it on the drive to and from Utopia over the past few days. I've clarified my thinking. So let me try again. So imagine that the current training and competence card regime is a building. It's tired, dilapidated, and uninhabitable. But sat inside are 7 people, one for each of the member organisations of this PSRO. Each of them is sat beneath an umbrella to protect them from the rain that is now pouring through the roof and the ceiling of the building. Someone, in this instance the Construction Leadership Council, comes along and sees those huddled below their umbrellas. They analyse the building, they decide the only way to improve matters is to put up a bigger umbrella. Not fix the roof, not tear down the entire building and start again. Nope. The solution, without any question of a doubt, is definitely a bigger umbrella. Now, let's look. Excuse me. Now let's look back at our discussions about the suicide rate here in the UK demolition industry. The rate of construction industry suicide has been on the increase for several years now. What is the solution? Is it to mend the working practices that are making young men feel they have no alternative but to end their own lives? Is it to create an industry structure with some job security in which those young men get to spend some time with their support network of family or friends? A structure in which they don't have to worry about how they're going to pay their bills? No. Apparently, the answer is just to spot the signs of people struggling. Not to stop them struggling, you understand, just to be aware when they are. Mental health awareness and the training of mental health first aiders is basically another big umbrella. It's not an attempt to fix the issue, it's nothing more than a sticking plaster on a festering wound. But I'll guarantee you that when World Mental Health Week rolls around next October, demolition and construction companies will be all over social media yet again with their pre-planned virtue signalling posts about their commitment to mental health awareness. Now, having got that off my chest, and I know that's a subject that does come up from our friend Tristan Mays, but let's rattle through these very quickly. A few more comments to take care of this morning, purely because we're broadcasting to other places. Morning, Tristan, and yes, you were definitely the first comment today. Gary Muirhead. Is Gary Muirhead back in the UK, or are you watching live from New York? I'll take either, but New York would be kind of cool. Nick Drew is in the house. Morning, Nick. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Who else is here? James Doble's here as well. Morning, James. Hope you're well, my friend. Hope you're feeling better than I am. Dan Cullen is here as well, and Ken Hatcher is here as well. Just a quick note to Ken. How did you not know I wasn't broadcasting yesterday? I thought I told everybody that I was going to JCB. Hey ho. Jeff Pinion's here. Morning, Jeff. Good morning, Mark and all, he says. Thank you very much indeed for that. The end of another day, beginning of another month. Yeah, can you believe it? December already. Malcolm Dyke's in the house. Morning, Malcolm. Thank you very much indeed for being here. We've already said hello to our friend Anak over in Indonesia, but Peter Ferguson is here as well. Now, I mentioned suicide, and quick as a flash, Tristan Mays was on it like a car bonnet, I think is the expression. It's no wonder suicides are on the up, especially when companies like Windhoist Limited go bankrupt and strand a lot of staff in foreign countries with no chance of being paid any money they have earned. When we stop companies, excuse me, when we stop companies like this, then maybe people's mental health will be improved. A lot of this does seem to stem from concerns about job security, concerns about finance, getting paid on time, getting paid at all in some instances. There you are. Can't wait to see another great show. Yeah, well, hopefully I'll be firing on all cylinders when Monday comes around. Just a very quick reminder, I did mention the Caterpillar show that we did on Wednesday. We're doing another one Wednesday week, so the 14th of December, not the 7th, but the 14th. Also in the house this morning is Neil Edwards. After this show, assuming I'm still upright and not vomiting quietly to myself, I need to speak to Neil because he is due on the show early next week. I'll let you all know when that's likely to happen. Mark Whiting is here as well. Morning, Mark. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Rattling through. Thank you very much indeed, Ken. I will do my level best. Al Grisson is here as well, all the way from sunny Luxembourg. I don't know if it's sunny, but you get the idea. The JCB stuff. Yeah, it was an awful misty day, but the machines, thankfully, despite the fact that they were white on a completely white background, looked really, really smart. Lots to tell you about that, but the hydrogen combustion engine that JCB have produced, distinguishable only by its green colour and the addition of some spark plugs, some Formula One style spark plugs as it happens, more of that in another show, but the engine looks very, very good, and I'll over on Instagram at some point, probably over the weekend, I'll be showing you the hydrogen backhoe loader in which that engine is fitted. and it goes down the same production line as the regular diesel engines, slots in just as easily as a diesel engine would as well. So one of the things that JCB was very keen to point out was the fact that they are determined that things like their telehandlers, the loaders, and the backhoe loaders, and the other equipment that's fitted with hydrogen combustion engines should basically look the same. There's no fancy nonsense. There's no great humps on the back where they're storing fuel cells or anything like that. These machines look exactly the same. And interestingly, being a combustion engine, a hydrogen combustion engine actually makes a noise. For those of you that have found looking at operating or working alongside electric machines and their silence is a little spooky, particularly in the gothic horror mist in Ashbourne yesterday, rest assured, hydrogen combustion engines sound like almost like a diesel, but there is a hum, there is a purr, and you can hear them coming. So awesome stuff. Looks a nice loader. It does look very nice indeed. Let's have a look. Mick Norton's just joined us. Morning, Mick. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Jim Turner apparently likes the hydraulics on the Case E-Series. Very handy idea. To be able to fine-tune it, whatever the application it's being used for. Totally. Funnily enough, that was one of the conversations that we had with Gilles Ronet over on our world premiere show, which you can now view on YouTube, by the way. We were talking about dialing in the various attachments that a demolition operative might actually use, or an operator might use in the course of the day. Really, really special stuff, that is. Ken Hatcher, no, we're not quite in 4K. I can't broadcast in 4K because, well, I'm looking at a 4K camera, but the file sizes would be terrible, huge. But I am broadcasting now in 1080p, which is a marked step up. Funnily enough, because I'm watching myself locally, I can't see any difference. But when I watch it back, I'm hoping I'll be able to see the difference. As Peter Ferguson says, picture quality does look higher definition, which is fantastic news, particularly as I'm paying extra for it. You also look 9 or 10 days younger. He does come back on that in a second. Yeah, totally agree with Al Grierson. I think Kobelco did a fine job. Obviously, we reported on the fact that they find themselves, through no fault of their own, in the midst of an investigation regarding emissions. They are apparently the engine manufacturer that they use. Hino told them that their machines or their engines were stage 5 compliant, which was not. There's a piece of paper that's not in place that proves that categorically. I understand that it is just a piece of paper that's missing. It's not a major issue on the scale of Volkswagen by any means. But obviously that blew up literally 2 weeks before Bauma started. All those machines that were on the Kobelco stand were effectively rendered unsellable, at least for the time being. And it would have been very easy for Kobelco to just abandon it and not go through with the show at all. They turned up and they did a damn fine job. Their demonstration was excellent. Their equipment was awesome as always. So hats off to the fine folks at Kobelco. Wonder how much the SK1300 demo model is. Think I'll get one for Christmas. I wonder if there's a model available of that. Speaking of models, you may have to bear with me a second, but let me show you something. Just talk amongst yourselves. I will be with you in a second. So you might recall that when we were doing our giveaway show, I said that we were going up to JCB and I might come back with a goodie bag. Well, I did, but it only contained one thing. And I've got to be honest with you, I have got no intention whatsoever of giving it away. Because it's that. How cool is that? That is obviously the new hydrogen backhoe loader. And those are obviously not handmade as such, but they are hand painted. They are a real limited edition. And I've got one of them. So as soon as I'm feeling well, something on the display behind me is going away. And that that model is going to take pride of place because it really is very, very smart indeed. Oh, excuse me. Peter Ferguson says, my bad, typo. 9 or 10 years. I don't look 9 or 10 years younger. Maybe if I lose the beard, I might look a fortnight younger. I don't know. I thought we'd see a bit more about JCB's hydrogen engine. It's coming. We didn't get back here until about 7:45 last night. So by the time I'd had something to eat, we didn't really have the time to edit all the stuff. We've got, let me think, 1, 2, 3. I think there are 4 different interview videos. We've got some video. If you want to see the engine, go over to the Demolition News Instagram channel, because I actually filmed the unveiling of it live and in person. So if you'd like to go and see that, you certainly can. But we'll be back next week with more from JCB, including that interview with Tim Burnhope, their Innovation and Growth Officer. Who will tell you all about all you ever wanted to know about hydrogen combustion engines, but were afraid to ask. Thank you very much indeed for that, Dan. And he reckons the picture looks better as well. Thank you very much indeed. The commentator on the Komatsu stand was brilliant, incredible. She wasn't actually from our industry, very professional. And not just professional, but multilingual. I watched her do her presentation in English, and I watched her do it in German. Seamless. I say seamless, I don't speak German. I'm assuming it was seamless. Nobody in the audience, who were mostly German, seemed to have a problem with it. So, yeah. Surely the solution for your hypothetical PSRO building is demolition. Yeah. Yeah. And I will say exactly the same thing about the system that has seen more than 500 young men in our industry take their own lives during 2021. It's not the fact that we need to be more aware that they're suffering. It's the issue is to stop their suffering. Going back to this PSRO, the competence card scheme within the construction and demolition industry is what is best termed as a bugger's muddle. Do we really want to put more layers of bureaucracy in, or do we want to rip the whole thing apart and start afresh with something that will actually work for the industry? I know where I'm leaning, but the powers that be that love a meeting, and it is Mick pointed this out when we announced this earlier this week. It is the same old people doing the same old thing. Only now they are called PSRO rather than whatever it was they were called before. It's the same old people spouting the same old stuff about the same old thing. They haven't moved it forward in the last decade. Do we honestly expect them to move it forward in the next? No, we don't. Ken Hatcher says, Nick Drew, they're okay till you ask you a question. But yes, you must take a lot to learn all that. Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm just trying to figure out. She was a professional presenter on the Komatsu stand, so not an industry person. But I tell you what, there was a time back in, not so long ago, you'd go to Intermat and you'd go to Bauma, those two particularly, and try and get an answer, about a new product or about a system, whatever it might be. And it was hard work. Obviously, there was a language barrier. There was a resistance to it. I tell you what, I don't think I had that on a single stand this year. Everybody was completely welcoming. I mean, I guess when you turn up with a big camera and a microphone under your arm, maybe you just come across as a little more important than a Burke with a notepad. I don't know, but I literally didn't encounter that once this time around. Gary Muirhead got back at 8:30 a.m. this morning. Tuned in at 9. Now that people is what dedication looks like. Thank you very much indeed for that, Gary. Hope you had a great trip. Saw you got to Cat's Deli. How was it? I have to say, for those that don't know, Cat's Deli, not surprisingly, is a deli in New York, very, very famous. And I suggested that Gary might go there. He did. He had a sandwich, looked fantastic. Gary, we're waiting for your review of Cat's Deli. Ken Hatcher says, I did know no show, just so used to watching it was strange. Maybe my OCD, it may well be. I have to say, I know I was winding you up there, Ken, but it feels very, very strange when my Apple Watch tells me it's 10 o'clock, which is usually the time for me to press a button, and it told me it was 10 o'clock yesterday, and I was in a hole in the ground, unable to do anything. Does feel strange. Peter Ferguson, I was made redundant 3 times within 4 years back in late 87, early 91. My first son was born. Stress was difficult. Yeah, I can believe it was. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I lost my business partner to suicide, and that was right at the very beginning of the 2008 recession, for much the same reason. There you are. Well done, Lord Bamford and his team at JCB Global. Yeah, interestingly, and again, that's something that will come out in our chat with Tim Burnhope, which I'll be showing you next week. Lord Bamford actually has his initials are on the hydrogen combustion engine, and here's the thing. JCB talk about Lord Bamford, or the chairman as they refer to him. They talk about him a lot. And there is a temptation, I think, to just believe that Lord Bamford he's the figurehead, but he's not there. But trust me, he is actively involved. And one of the things that they were talking about yesterday was that back in 2021, June 2021, they decided that the way forward wasn't hydrogen fuel cell technology, although it may be at some point in the future. The way forward was a hydrogen combustion engine. That was June 2021. And Lord Bamford challenged his team to have one operational by Christmas that same year. And they did. Obviously, it's then been through testing, and it's been... I think it was in one of the machines, at least one of the machines, that went up to COP26 last year. But here we are, fast forward, and it's not commercially available yet, but it's a living, breathing thing. That loader that you saw there, that is running a hydrogen combustion engine. Ken Hatcher. Is it quieter than a normal diesel, more like a petrol engine? No, it's more like a diesel than a petrol. Because it's got that kind of rattle is the wrong word, but you know a diesel has a very distinctive sound. The one thing that is slightly different is the pitch is a bit different, and it's only when you really sort of cock your ear to it, you think, that sounds a little bit different. Probably a little bit quieter, not a whole lot, but it is most certainly a different sound. Dan says, hasn't operated a cake as yet, waiting for the opportunity. Mick Saunders is with us. Morning, Mick. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Jim Turner, oh yes, great model, and don't blame me for holding on to it. I don't hold on to many, but that one is, well, that's a bit special, isn't it? Thank you very much indeed, Al. Mick Saunders says, night work was not good for an old sod like me. Slate patterns gone to hell, I think we'll call that. Yeah, my dad was on night work for a lot of time, a lot of my growing up, and because he was a keen fisherman, he used to work. He'd go to work at sort of 10 o'clock at night, come home about 6 o'clock in the morning. But then on a Saturday, because he was a keen fisherman, he'd get up early, and it really, I mean, it led to depression. He's insomnia. He looked awful, and it was only when he gave up the night work that he sort of started to come back on the mend. So I can fully understand that. Malcolm Dyke may well be jealous of that model, or he has 5 of them already. I think, I mean, you never know with these things. We were all told that they are a fairly limited supply because obviously the machine isn't even out yet. But yeah, I'm very proud to own it. I live in hope that JCB will one day put their technological genius to work with a device that warns the operator of the telescopic handlers they're approaching lateral instability. Should have asked about that, and I apologise. The problem with these events, as Nick Drew would tell you, or Peter Haddock would tell you, you kind of fed through a bit like a sausage. Here's a presentation, here's a machine, here's a presentation, here's a machine. Go have a play on the machines. Right, it's time to go home. That you don't honestly get a great deal of time, but watch. We will get onto that at some point. Mr. Bamford is an amazing guy. You see what he does for his workers, unbelievable. It's interesting, actually, the number of people that you see that have, I mean, certainly when you walk around the factory, there are people that have been there for as long as I've been doing this, but there's also, you get instances of people going off to work for a rival company, and within a year, 2 years, they're back in the JCB fold because they realise just how good a company it is. Mick Saunders says, PSRO, know what, mate, I may be out of the game, but I think all those involved are taking the piss out of the whole construction demolition industry. I had a look at the so-called board they have, and as you say, same old, same old. I did say to you, the old boys will raise their rotten heads again. I can never remember exactly how the expression goes, but I know it's attributed to Einstein. Whether he actually said it or not, frankly, is neither here nor there. But the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. The people that are behind or that are part of this PSRO have been in charge of the industry training and competence card schemes for decades. And it's a mess. It is a hellscape. It is, as my son would call it, a shit show. So what do? We get the same people to do the same thing, only with a new name above the door. And do we honestly expect that to make a difference? Do we honestly expect to be sat here in December 2023 marvelling at how good the competence card scheme is? Don't think so. I agree, that model is amazing. Mr. Bamford gives his workers a bonus too. Yeah, you know, I've ranted about JCB in the past, pro-ranting about JCB, because I am a fan. I'm a fan of a lot of brands, but I'm a fan of JCB. And I do believe, because they are one of the last bastions of heavy industry and manufacturing in this country, they get a very, very, very bad press. When the 2008-2009 recession hit, they laid off a bunch of workers. I can't remember exactly, but it was like 600 odd workers. A lot of those were temporary workers anyway, but they'd seen a global downturn in their business and they responded like a family firm is able to do. They responded quickly and decisively, and they laid off about 600 people. It made the BBC News, it made the pages of the Times and the Telegraph and the Guardian. It was all over the Staffordshire local press about JCB making people unemployed. Now, 2.5 years later, when the recession had blown over and demand for JCB machines went up again, not only did they re-employ 600 people, they then employed another 500 on top of that. Was that on the BBC or the Times or the Telegraph or the Staffordshire newspapers? Was it buggery? Because bad news doesn't sell newspapers. Good news, rather, doesn't sell newspapers. So, no, I do think JCB get a bad press. I think they take very good care of their workers, and they have some very, very smart people there. And I got to meet a fair few of them yesterday. They used to tell me night works can knock 5 years off your life expectancy. I hated it on the railways. I can believe that. Yeah, it's all about your circadian rhythms or whatever it might be. I never remember what that is. I know it comes up in an REM song, Day Sleeper. Very good song. If you haven't heard that, go check it out. Mick Norton says, Einstein, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. There you are. So, mental health awareness. We've been banging that drum for about 5 years, and we're now losing more people to suicide than ever before. And we've had decades of the shit show that is the competence card scheme. And what have we done? We've changed the initials above the door and hope that will make everything better. Trust me, it will not. Right, people? I really do need to love you and leave you because I feel god awful. I'm going to be back here, all things being equal. So, assuming this isn't terminal, whatever it is. I'll be back here again on Monday, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, with more tales of JCB and plenty more besides. But until then, have a great day. Have a great weekend as well. Look after yourselves, because it appears that nobody else is planning to. So, yeah, look after yourselves, and I'll see you very soon. All the very best.